I know everybody in this room love to talk. You're elected official. But we got to move along with the program, so we don't be infringing on anybody's time. All right, so next up, we're going to have some great individuals or some individuals I've known for quite some time. I think they are amazing in the law enforcement arena. Mr. Robert Housel is an accomplished law enforcement executive with nearly 28 years of leadership experience. He began his career in 1995 with the Kansas Police Department and now serves as the Chief of Police for the Rocky Mountain Police Department. Chief Robert Housel has a bachelor's degree in criminal justice, a master's degree in public administration, and a doctorate degree in organizational management and leadership. Also, we have Secretary Eddie M. Buffalo Jr. Governor Roy Cooper appointed Eddie M. Buffalo Jr. as Secretary of the North Carolina Department of Public Safety effective November 1st, 2021. Secretary Buffalo has served as a law enforcement officer for the past 30 years and serves as the sole representative on the governor's cabinet for the state's law enforcement, juvenile, justice, and emergency management responsibilities. Buffalo oversees the state's Homeland Security Coordination and serves as Governor Cooper's Homeland Security Advisor. The department has more than 9,000 sworn law enforcement and civilian employees, along with more than 13,000 National Guard soldiers and airmen. So, having said that, our next section is going to be on talking about officer violence prevention, how to reduce crime in your communities, what's working, what's not. Thank you to Governor Roy Cooper for opening the Office of Violence Prevention, which is absolutely needed in our state. And I took the initiative to take it even further in my community to create a Mayor's Crime Intervention Task Force. So just hearing from these two, experienced individuals in the law enforcement spectrum, I do appreciate you guys for being here, taking time out of your busy schedule, because I know you guys are very busy gentlemen, and you have a lot of impact on the lives of those that live and work in our community. So we thank you so much. And now I'll turn it over to you whenever you're ready.
Well, it's interesting. I got the invite, and I was thankful to be able to come and speak to such distinguished guests today. But it's always, I'm always grateful to meet individuals that I had the opportunity that our paths crossed before. I see President Dontario Hardy. We knew each other back in Kinston in a mentoring program, and it's just awesome to see such a fine young man to raise the level of mayor, member of this great distinguished body, and doing great things over in Kinston. As most of you know, that's where I started my career. And also, I think Councilman Aiken is in the room. I know him from back in the day, so I'm thankful to be able to see you guys again. I'll be remiss if I didn't recognize my own city councilman in the room, Councilman Blackwell, Councilman Joyner, and Councilman Knight. So if I don't recognize no one else, I'm going to recognize them. Pay the bill. So I hope I got the essence of what we wanted to do out of this this session or workshop on point. But it was engaging communities in violence prevention. I wanted really to take an opportunity to show you or give you some ideas of things that we're doing here in Rocky Mountain that maybe you can glean from, take back in your communities, and maybe make it fit, and hopefully it'll be as successful or helpful for you. Importance of community policing and making connections. As a collective group, law enforcement needs to recognize the importance of community relationships if we are going to identify individuals who pose a threat to our national security. Developing and maintaining trust relationships are the foundation of community policing and are essential to preventing crime, terrorism, and targeted violence. That is the first part of that statement in the first few words, as a collective group. As a collective group, and it talks about the law enforcement community, it's not just talking about my collective group of officers within the Rocky Mount Police Department. This talks about the collective law enforcement group, our partners, which we'll talk a little bit more about in my presentation. And then in the last part of that, it talks about developing and maintaining that trust and relationships, which is the foundation of community policing. It's really hitting to bringing our community within that collective group and law enforcement group and working as a collaborative team to deal with some of the issues, identifying what our problems are, and then that is how we're going to get to some of the root causes and problems that we need to try to address together. What I have here is I put together 4 strategies or 4 initiatives that we have utilized here at the Rocky Mountain Police Department that I feel has shown some significant success in helping us reduce some areas of concern within our city. First, enhanced focus patrols. 2, specialized units and community engagement. 3, technology. And then 4, partnerships. Enhanced focus patrols. Of course, many times I like telling stories. This strategy or initiative came about, interestingly, a phone call from one of my councilmen in the room, Councilman Blackwell. And we had had a number of citizens who I think had reached out to him. They were experiencing some shootings, experiencing a lot of suspicious activity. And I believe the last incident that really got the community in an uproar was there was a death at a pool room, a kind of an unofficial pool room, but people had gathered and someone was unfortunately killed one late evening. Well, the councilman calls that chief, the citizens up in the Holly Street community are upset. We need to get together and meet with them. So within 24 hours, there was a meeting in our local library. Not knowing how busy the library usually be, looked like it was kind of a normal night. I saw the councilman in the parking lot. He said, Chief, I don't know how many people are going to be here, because it was less than 24-hour notice to get notice out to them and get them into the library. We walked in that room, it was filled with Holly Street citizens who was there to voice their concerns of the issues going in their community. That is that moment as a chief, you know, when you come in that room, it ain't time for you to come up with some fancy plans to start off with and try to give reasons for this or reasons for that. It was time for me to sit down, take notes, and listen. And I know when those moments come, and that was one of those moments. So my command staff and I, we listened for a good 30, 45 minutes of their concerns. We made significant notes. And at the end, I gave them my commitment that we were going to take their concerns, we were going to look how we can develop a plan, and we took their ideas on what we needed to do. And what we came up with was a concentrated strategic effort to deal with all those concerns in the Holly Street community. Within 45 days, when we met back with that community after implementing such a plan, the issues they were seeing significantly dropped. We had that second meeting, so it was like night and day. The first meeting, they were ready to throw some stones at me, I felt. But the second meeting, it was, Chief, your staff, we're so thankful for what you've done. Things are much quieter. After that meeting, we start thinking, what can we do? How can we take what we did for Holly Street, replicate it for other communities within Rocky Mount before it gets to the point they're calling one of my city councilmen? You want to try to be preventive. You want to try to be proactive. So that was the birth of Enhanced Focus Patrols. And what that entails is our team of crime analysts, whether you have dedicated members that do nothing but analyze your crime data and statistics, there's likely someone within your law enforcement department that looks at that data. Our team looks at our violent crime within our city, and we look at where are we seeing those concentrated pockets of those issues. They will identify that, those locations, then the team meets with the division commander, where we then create what we call an enhanced focus patrol. And that is where we take all of our patrol officers assigned to that district, and those officers focus on those areas over the next 60 days, documenting all of their actions, anything they've observed. So that way, along that progress of those 60 days, we can then look at where we're seeing issues continuing to occur, and things that we can deal with, we deal with. To go a step further, to make this more of a reminder of our officers, we put these geofields around these focus patrols. So every time an officer rides through that assigned area, it gives them an alert in their patrol call to remind them, hey, you're in an enhanced focus patrol area, which then alerts them to sign into their problem-oriented policing module, make notes of the concerns that we have already documented from the citizens in that neighborhood, and then how they were able to address it if they saw anything they could address. So first, identify the problem, which is data and citizen driven. That story about Hollis Street reminded me as a police chief, we have to always look at citizen concerns in addition to the data. You often hear in law enforcement, data driven, data driven, data driven. The data don't always show you where the problems are, but the citizens know where it is. So Hollis Street reminded me, even though the data wasn't showing that was a hot spot, but listening to them in that meeting did. So I always make sure I say data and citizen driven. Then utilize your resources, what you may have. If it's a specialized team that can concentrate on that area, then utilize them. But even if it's just your patrol officers, let them know where they need to be and when they need to be there, and it will make a difference. Patrol designated areas, which is the enhanced focus patrol area, and then it does, in our case, this is an example of one of the enhanced focus patrol areas up on the Hammond Street, Taylor Street area. And when initially we identified the location you see on your left, that is an illustration of a heat spot where we had some concentrated areas of concern, whether it was some type of violent crime. The map on the right, your right, is illustration what it looked like at the end of the 60 days, where it significantly decreased the number of incidents that was occurring there. So I want to kind of give you a high-level view. At the end, I have my contact information. If you want someone from your office to call my office, I will make sure they connect to the right person to show you how we did enhanced focus patrols. And at the end, I'll have let you ask me any questions you may have. Specialized units and community engagement. In the Rocky Mount Police Department, we have a specialized team that concentrates on areas of concern within our city. We saw a significant drop in Q1 and Q2 statistics when we looked at violent crime. And it's because of the efforts of this team that focuses on designated areas that we assign them to within the city. These are some of their activities in that 30 days, or actually not 30 days, but those 3 months. It was March, April, May, and June, I'm sorry, compared to first quarter, and we saw a 10% drop in violent crime, 25% drop in shootings within that area. It is from a part their efforts that they had in our city. I'm a believer you don't just do suppression. Suppression is needed, and any time you have to deal with crime, but you have to balance that with community engagement. We have a dedicated community engagement coordinator, and over those same 3 months, her along with other staff members in the department was able to take care and make sure they concentrate not only in that area but other areas of our city and do a total of 12 activities that they initiated and attended 23 other community events within the community to make sure we're still building that relationship and listening to concerns within the city. A total almost 2,000 citizens, youth and adults that we were able to engage in that 3 months time period. So in that area where we're concentrating on reducing crime, sometimes that may look like services and warrants, that may look like checkpoints, that may look like search warrants, officers out in the corner dealing with the issues they may see, but we're also trying to couple that with our officers in a positive way, engaging the community. Because we don't want the community to see us as their enemy. We want to let them see us as their friend, as their partner in reducing the crime within their particular neighborhoods. So on this piece, I'm saying specialized units to concentrate on the areas you may see problems, but I'm also saying you need to couple that with community engagement activities. Use of technology. I don't know very many cities across our state that don't have issues with shortages of officers. And even if you were fully staffed, you probably at times can feel like you can use more officers. There's no such thing as having an officer on every corner, but if you use technology correctly, it can be an aid and a tool to fill those gaps, to help you not only have somewhat of a presence in those locations, but also use it as a tool to help us solve some of the crimes that you may see within your jurisdiction. These are the top 4 pieces of technology that we use in Rocky Mount that has been instrumental in helping us fight some of the challenges we face. ShotSpotter, which is a gun detection software that we have in a 3 square mile area of the city. Flock Safety, which are license plate readers. We have over 20 license plate readers strategically placed through main corridors within the city of Rocky Mount. Fusus is the platform that brings it all together in our real-time intelligence center, which is a picture of that. It just came online with the monitors. It's 3 workstations in there with my crime analyst and a 3rd workstation for an investigator or another officer can sit, but they monitor those top 2, and then of course our Exxon, which is our body camera, in-car camera system. What we do is we take these technologies and we funnel it all in that room. So if something happens in the city of Rocky Mount, it's going to pop up on those screens. So if a shot comes in, it's going to pop up. It's going to give my staff the ability to pull up any cameras we have in the area of that location where a shot has occurred. If it's an incident that happens on the far side of the city, let's say a robbery or some other major event, it's going to let me know where that incident is, and if I have cameras there, I'm going to be able to circle that area and pull up every camera I have in that immediate area and see live video stream of what's going on. Why is that important? That's important so that way I can deliver, my staff can deliver that information directly to the officers in the field responding. Having the information of what's going on before you get there is vitally important. But another key part of this is it's also giving me the ability to go back and look at all of that video footage after the incident has happened. So I don't have to go interrupt the partnership or one of the partners, let's say a business who's partnering with us, because over 150 cameras on this system is from businesses who have partnered with the Rocky Mount Police Department to connect their cameras to this system, giving us access. So I'm able to go back, look at the video, get what evidence that's going to help us solve that incident or that case, and use it to build a stronger case on those individuals that we may have identified that have committed a crime within our city. Exxon is our body camera system, in-car camera system. It gives me the capability of any incident going on in my city, and I need to get a bird's eye view or a peek of what's going on. I can sign into any of my officers' cameras and see what's going on live on those locations. That's instrumental at times for a commander or chief and my commanders in the department to see what's going on particular incidents at any given moment. But those 3 pieces or 4 pieces of technology has significantly helped us solve many cases, bring many individuals to justice, or at least put them into the court system, and hopefully will get the right or punishment that is rightfully so as compared to the crime they may have committed in Rocky Mount. Community and police partnerships. Here's a list of things that are local entities that we partner with under community stakeholders, and this is just a small list. Human Relations, which is part of the city of Rocky Mount, those members of that commission is appointed by our city council. We meet with them on a regular basis with the board to talk about concerns that they wish to speak with me about, or if they want me to give updates on particular incidents that may have occurred in the city. Our community associations, we have dozens of community neighborhood watch groups within the city of Rocky Mount, and I make a commitment to all those community association presidents to have someone from the Rocky Mount Police Department there, whether it's my community engagement coordinator or a police officer, one of my commanders usually, to be there to listen to any concerns they may want to pass on to the police department for us to address. I can't stress the importance of that. Now, many times some of those presidents say, Chief, I don't need your person there. And sometimes we may not go, but they are always standing ready to be there just in case they want my officer or my representative to be there to listen. The faith community, that's vitally important. Our faith leaders, our pastors, and our preachers throughout our city is a huge connection to building strong relationships to those congregations and a vast majority of your citizens within your community. So ensuring your police department has a good, strong relationship with the faith community is important. So if you have a ministerial alliance, or a group of pastors within your community, that's a great start to building that relationship with them. Our school administrators and through communities and schools, through our SROs, with all of our schools within the city, and then the Chamber of Commerce, can't forget our business community. Our local partners, your police department needs to make sure they're building a strong relationship with their local sheriff's departments. I'm in a unique situation in Rocky Mount. We have two. We have Nash and Edgecombe. So building a relationship with both of my sheriffs is important to dealing with crimes within our city limits. Criminals don't know jurisdictional lines. They don't care where it's going to happen. They're going to take advantage of an opportunity. So having a strong relationship with your sheriff is important, but also your other police chiefs within your general area. And for me, that's generally going to be the Tri-County area, Wilson County, Nash, and Edgecombe. And then moving on to your state partners, and I put first the Department of Public Safety. Our Secretary of Buffalo is here. If you don't know Secretary of Buffalo, you need to get to know him before you leave today. A lot of the entities fall up under his purview, but having a relationship with his office is important because it's not unusual for him to call when something happens. Chief, is there anything I can do for you in Rocky Mount? And so you need to have that relationship before something happens. So he don't feel like, who is this guy calling me and he needs something? So it shouldn't be one of those relationships you call only when you need something, but have the relationship built beforehand. And so it'd be a lot easier to extend that helping hand when something's needed. But then you got the SBI, DMV, ALE, Highway Patrol, and Probation and Parole are key partners in what we do here and helping deal with some of our challenges. Our federal partners, if it's one of the 3 letters of the alphabet, we have a relationship with them. From the FBI, DEA, Homeland Security, ATF. I have a man or a woman who's assigned as a task force officer on one of those federal groups, which is a great relationship as long as you don't lose focus. And for me, it's great being on these teams, but how are you going to help me deal with my issues in Rocky Mount? So I always have to remind those task force officers, explain to me your efforts here, how is it helping us in Rocky Mount? And so just don't lose focus of that. These guys, they get all big, they get that nice little badge and credentials, I guess I used to say. But just make sure they don't lose focus on how what they're doing there is helping deal with some of the concerns you may have in your own city. Here are some community programs that we have started or that we do here in Rocky Mount under the community engagement piece, clergy and the chief. We meet with about 12 to 15 pastors. We're on our 3rd meeting now. We're going to be ready to birth or come out from that meeting 3 new initiatives. We aren't ready to announce yet, but we're still in the drafting, I guess you say, phase of that. And we're hoping that we're going to be able to bring something new to our community to help some of those who may be already on a path or in some kind of violent path. They're committing crime within our city, give them some form of a mentor, someone they can go to talk with. Coffee with a Cop is a national initiative. Many of you probably do that in your local cities, but from Coffee with a Cop, my community engagement coordinator has birthed Cookies with a Cop, Ice Cream with a Cop. If it's anything that can get attention, she is putting it out there. But it's not just giving free food and sweets out. It's always the message that they bring to that end of the group that you're speaking with. Whether it's some kind of team building message, whether it's how they can help prevent crime, if it's about anti-bullying, it has to always come with some kind of awareness piece. I'm not here to just give out free food. As long as those individuals, whether it's our seniors, whether it's our adults, or whether it's our children, they have to walk away with something knowledgeable to help us work together and improve the quality of life in our city. But the cookies and all the other stuff is just a way to get them in the door. National Night Out, many of you, your communities across our great state is going to be participating in that come Tuesday. We're looking forward to ours at the Helen Gay Historic Train Station. It's going to be a big event for us. That is a great way for you to meet many of your citizens that you may not have met in a long time. But for me, it's always also the opportunity for me to listen again to what's going on within our city and to hear what ideas they may have for the police department, because sometimes good ideas are birthed from the citizens in which we serve, so that's a time for you to open your ears and listen. And then Faith in Blue is another national initiative that we do here. And then I can't forget our Police Activity League, PALS. It used to be athletics. We do more than just athletics here in Rocky Mount. So bowling just kicked off. We do wrestling with our kids. Art, we have had art classes, and we're about to kick off some dance classes, introduction to dance, I should say, for some kids. But we do the traditional baseball, softball. We do the traditional basketball. Every year we actually sponsor a whole league, different age groups for basketball and baseball as well. Prevention programs, we are the first city in North Carolina to do the new EKG2, educating your kids on guns and gangs here in Rocky Mount. We implemented that at the end of last year, working with the U.S. Attorney's Office. That's another great partner your agency should be partnering with. Attorney General Mike Easley Jr., he helped us get that program in. It was at no cost to us that first year to bring all of the curriculum into our public schools once we got approval from the school system to bring that to our 7th graders. We brought DARE back, educating the kids about drugs and also about good decision making. We had it for many years, then it went away. And a lot of federal funding was taken away from DARE because there was no quantifiable data to show that it was successful. But I disagree. A lot of times data, you're not going to be able to measure success in a quantifiable way. I think it's more qualitative. You need to really get down and talk to the kids, not only from the classroom, but when they get older, and how did DARE affect their lives. That is when you are starting to see the success of DARE, and we brought that back last year and to all our middle schools here, or elementary schools here in Rocky Mount. I'm thankful for that. Intervention programs, Project Safe Neighborhoods, and we're bringing back call-ins, except for this time, instead of being the Rocky Mount Police Department doing this alone, we're bringing in our sheriff's offices and all our police departments in the Tri-County area to come talk to those violent offenders who have committed crimes in your city, in our city. And to add to that, instead of us just giving them that "you're not to do this again" type talk, pointing down to them, to let them see that we're serious. If you commit crime again, we're gonna make sure that you get the fullest extent of the law and the book thrown at you. That's the message at first. But then we end with, in the room next door, community resources to help you get your GED, help you go get a skill at local community college, whether it's welding or AC repair, to help them understand how to get a job, to build a resume, how to do an interview. So we're taking it, changing it from a traditional call-in and just talking down to individuals to give them the resources they may need to help become productive citizens in our community. We hope to have that going in the fall of this year. Partnerships, our Violent Crime Action Plan, or our VCAP, which we talked about earlier with that specialized unit. We have enhanced gun screenings where we screen all of our gun cases in the city and those involved, and we deliver that over to our ATF task force officer to make sure it was committed. We take it federally if all possible, working with our district attorney's office, not leaving them out of that conversation. And then our brand new mental health co-responder program has been instrumental in us dealing with mental crises in our city. Everybody has it. Too many times we ignore it. Too many times law enforcement goes to these situations where someone's going through a mental crisis. They need to have that CIT, that crisis intervention team training, to understand what they got when they see it. But then what do you do with it? Typically what police do with it in the past, what we did, you just go get a commitment paper and just throw them somewhere. Or they were just throwing them in jail. So recognizing they got a problem is the first thing. We give all our officers that training. But for us, we now have an actual peer support specialist from Integrated Health Service who goes out to all those calls we called them to assess the individual. Then they can take that off our officers' hands and let them be free to go do other things within our city. That has been instrumental for us. And it's not just a traditional mental health crisis. It can include someone wanting to do harm to themselves, so suicides. It also includes individuals who, when they get there, they've identified some other things they may need, like there's a lack of food, the utilities are turned off. So they have a way to be able to connect these individuals with other wraparound services through their office for our officers if needed. So that has been great, and over the last 3 months have been instrumental, have shown some good success and freeing up our officers in the city. A lot of what I told you, those 4 things, will fall up under these 6 pillars of the 21st Century Policing Report. Your police chief should know that report. If he don't, that's the first thing you need to do. That QR code will take you to the 21st Century Police Report. It's been out for some years now, and if there's a police chief who have not read it, then that's the first problem you need to fix. It will give you their recommendations and steps on how to implement many of those recommendations from that report. So I advise you as elected officials to read that report and then see if you can identify those 6 pillars and things and actions your police department does. The things I discussed with you today fall up under pillar 1, building trust and legitimacy. Number 3, technology and social media. And then number 4, community policing and crime reduction. And with that, I know I may have did my 30 minutes.
45.
Thank you, Secretary Buffalo, I'm sorry. But I'll be here after the presentation, and Chief Buffalo and I will entertain some questions at the end of his comments.
Oh, it's still morning. Good morning. Y'all look like a different group than last night. You're a little slow. Not going to tell any stories other than if you play tunk, make sure you got a king, queen, and a 2. You know, that's the Spring Lake spread. Never knew how to play cards, but oh, I didn't realize it was you. I'm sorry, man. I apologize. You called your own self out. But I know y'all a little bit of behind schedule, so I'm just going to be very brief. And Chief Hassel did an excellent job in talking about resources, partnerships, because that's what it's all about. And it's truly an honor to be back with you again. Last year we were with you in Beaufort. But as the mayor from Kinston talked about, from the DPS, Department of Public Safety standpoint, we're in the business of protecting all 10.5 million people in North Carolina. Our job is that we work with every sheriff, every police chief, every law enforcement entity across all spectrums. That's man-made, that's violent crime, that's tornadoes, flooding, you name it. Even if an aircraft comes into Charlotte 2 weeks ago and the nose gear doesn't open, we're responsible for that coordination to try to get that aircraft on the ground safely. As a former police chief and a retired police chief out of Elizabeth City, Chief Hassel hit on something about relationship building and community building. And I'm a believer of finding out why. Why do people do what they do? But that goes both ways, from a community standpoint and a law enforcement standpoint. As a 30-year law enforcement practitioner, I tried to convey to my officers, why didn't that person get their vehicle inspected? Why are their driver's license revoked? Why don't they have any insurance? There's a why behind everything that we do. Some are good whys and some are not good whys. But if we go back to the why, I believe we can understand that in our society today. I can tell you, he talked about relationships beforehand. April 21st, 2021 definitely changed my life as a law enforcement officer in the Andrew Brown shooting in Elizabeth City, where protests was 100+ days straight. So I lived through that as a police chief. But I wanted to understand the why. Why did people want to protest? Why did they want to do that? So that relationship with my community was already there before that shot was fired. Because you don't wait to build relationships after the shooting. You have to build relationships prior to the shooting. And those relationships are everlasting and the foundation, the basic principle of your communities in which we live, work, and play, and recreate. And we have to understand that. So what I leave you today is, if your police department is not forward thinking and understanding the why, then you have a why question to your police department. I'm not here to belittle or beat over the brow, but are people really concerned about what goes on in their communities? Are they community focused about actually what goes on in their communities? Do they want to sweep around their own front door, or do they want to put all the burden on law enforcement? Because when we do that, is it really that they don't want to take responsibility of what's going on in their community? Do they really want to take that responsibility just as you take the responsibility every day in your own home? Do they take the responsibility within that community? Is it fear? Could be. Well, the governor was forward thinking. He called me into his office one day. He says, I want to do an Office of Violence Prevention. We need it in North Carolina. So we convened ER doctors, chiefs, mayors, elected officials, nonprofits all over the state, and we talked about this issue of Office of Violence Prevention. How can we do that? What can we do? So we're the first Office of Violence Prevention in the Southeast in the country. North Carolina is. So he was very forward thinking because we know that violence is not a problem that can be solved by a single group or an organization. It takes a team effort. And that's why you're here today. And that's why we're talking about the engagement piece and the partnership. So the first thing we got to do is communicate. We got to talk about the issue. We got to talk about the issue at hand. And we got to be very clear and concise about the issue. Well, let me be clear and concise for you just for the next 2 minutes. It's black on black crime. Is that clear enough for you? Is that issue in your community? Okay, it is an issue in our community. However, is our community taking a stance on it too? You can't come down to city council and blame city council.
You better say that again.
You can't go down there and blame the city council when you standing right beside the shooter. And then law enforcement shows up. I ain't seen nothing. So we got to learn how to communicate, because we can communicate about issues with the police, but when the police want to solve issues with the community, we want to come down and stand at the podium and we want to say to you all, the elected in your districts, you're not doing enough. Well, I revert that question back to you. What are you doing? So we got to communicate. I'm going to get off my soapbox. I don't have time. Elton's already texted me. Elton, I'm moving on to my second point. Secondly, we got to do Chief, if you want to talk to me, then you get my 45 minutes back from Chief. But since we in his jurisdiction, Chief, take all the time you want, brother. Secondly, we got to invest. We can talk about tough on crime all we want. We can talk about it. But are we really investing? Are we really investing in education and prevention programs for those who need it? I can tell you, growing up in Northampton County, about 45 minutes from here, my parents invested in me when they went down and stood in that social service line and got that block of cheese. That's because they knew I needed it, that I need nourishment. They invested in me. And there are people in communities, in your respective communities, that you know that we need to invest in. We got to invest in it because we don't, the communities in which we live in, they don't even respect each other. So how do we break that cycle? Here we are, when I started in policing, here we are in policing talking about a co-responder program. I'm not against it. So let's put social workers in the police car and let's let them respond to us. Did we really invest in social work? Now we're saying, put them in your police car and carry them with you. How many of y'all out there want to leave and at 2 o'clock in the morning, ride with Chief Hassel to a call in your community at 2 a.m. as a social worker. Why didn't we invest in that earlier? Why didn't we do that? I don't know. I don't have the answer. But we got to invest in education and prevention programs. And we can't put it all on law enforcement. You send the law enforcement to BLET. You train them for 16 weeks. You teach them how to shoot. You teach them how to do unarmed self-defense. You teach them how to stop a car. Teach them how to do a felony arrest. You teach them all of this paramilitary stuff, and then you go out there and tell them, says, hey, go pick up that social worker along the way. And we put them in CIT for a week, where a social worker went and got a 4-year degree, and a police officer got 40 hours. We're not investing in the right places. We're not investing, I said we're going to communicate this morning, right? We're not investing in our disproportionate communities in North Carolina. I said it. Okay? I said it. All right. So, Elton, last point. He talked about partnerships. Partnerships are critical. I just came back from a 3.5-week tour across the major cities in our country: Boston, New York, Chicago. Just got back yesterday. Then I came straight with y'all to play tump. The Spring Lake way. So, and all of our conversation was around what? Violent crime. What are we doing in North Carolina? We are saying we have a violent crime issue, but we take the law and repeal gun permits. I told you we need to communicate, right? We repeal gun permits. We say you don't need it. So we're saying, hey, we're going to repeal gun permits where the sheriff does not have the constitutional authority of his office, who issues the permits, to say that this person is not qualified. That's a problem. Then we expect the police, who now say that you don't have the authority to say qualified, to respond to that same issue of that person who now has a gun. Counterintuitive, in my opinion. I got my own personal opinion. I'm going to leave it right there. Some stuff don't need to be said. But that collaboration must, I'll just put it like this. It matters whose hands we put things in. It matters whose hands and those desks and those daises down at the General Assembly, of whose hands we put things in. Because if don't, it's going to affect your community in which you live, work, and play. It's going to affect our future. Think about this, and I'm going to leave. Think about this. Who's going to take your place? Who's going to take your place? I think about it every single day. When I decide I have 20 months, we have about 18 to 20 months left in the governor's term. Who's up? Who's in the batter's box? Who's on deck? Who's on the bench? Who's in the wheelhouse? Who's in middle school? Who's in elementary school now that's going to take our place? Is the attendance going to steady dwindle? Think about that why as well. And in fostering those relationships, Office of Violence Prevention, we just hired our first director. We started NC Safe, because what we're finding is people are purchasing firearms, have never fired a weapon. People are purchasing firearms, don't even know how to secure a weapon. Police chief in Elizabeth City, one quick story, go down to a call, guy has a weapon on his front seat of his car, nice car, weapon is stolen. Guess what? He locked the car but left the convertible open. So, you got to foster those relationships. Elton is walking this way. And so, I might not do that. I ain't gonna be able to play Tunk tonight, so I got to go get a new set of cards. But, you know, I'll just leave y'all with this. And I always say this, you know, it matters whose hands you put things in, but Dr. King said it very elegant. The time is always right to do what is right. And if we can just get people to just do what is right, we wouldn't have to worry about the wrong.
After hearing a sermon like that, I feel like the associate pastor.
Pass the plate around.
Yeah, well, I'm about to do that. And I know y'all don't want to hear what I got to say after hearing something like that. But to your point, the time is right, is always right to do what is right. So I'm going to give you extra time for them to ask you questions. But I do want to make one announcement. So this afternoon, we have a fun-filled event for you. We're going to have VIP tickets for the Down East Music Festival. And if you have registered for the conference, I need you to see me immediately after this event so I can hand you your VIP wristband to get you into the show. It starts at 2 o'clock today, but we have sessions going on. But a lot of you all, I kind of been partying with you last night, so I know you ain't gonna be out there early. You're gonna want to rest a little bit. But we will have shuttle services going over to the event, which is at our sports complex, starting around 6:30 this afternoon. So you will have the reception here. We're going to take you here from the event center directly to that if you want to go to that event. But let me know after this event today, because we have another luncheon today, and everybody at the luncheon won't be going to the music festival. So if you want to go to the music festival, if you've registered, I have a single wristband, and I know some of you have guests that you want to bring along. So I want to get you all who have registered first, and then after the luncheon, I may have a few extra, and I can give you the extra ones at that point in time. Anybody have any questions about that?